and I run a company called Compton and Compton Labor Market Transition. And we are a company that focuses on partnering with educators, schools, CTE directors, parents on how to actually properly prepare a student to transition from an educational environment and into the labor market. So that said, really excited to go ahead and have a discussion with employers that represent that labor market. I know there's a lot of questions. There's probably even a degree of anxiety about this new labor market, everything that's going on with the pandemic and the lockdown. So I'm hoping that before we're done, in addition to covering a lot of information on that labor market, what the employers have to say about their particular field, that we can also kind of touch on what some of the truths and frankly what some of the myths are about going from school into the career field. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and kind of work my way around. I'll go ahead and call out a name as I see it on my screen. And if that person could give us a quick introduction on who they are, who they represent, and just for fun, I would like to know what your first job was, whether it was in high school or maybe right after you graduated, but just a really quick touch on what was your first job. And in order on my screen, Rudy, that means you're first.
Of course. Thank you, Ben, so much. Thank you for having us here today. Appreciate it that you're allowing us to give us a little preview of what's going to happen maybe in somebody's near future. So I actually recruit for the federal government. I'm a Department of Navy recruiter, mainly recruit for Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, blue collar and white collar jobs. That means I have entry level positions, and I also have programs that allow you to get trained and move forward in life in your career here at the shipyard and the submarine base. So I've been doing this for about 6 years now. My first job, if you don't believe it, I'm originally from Texas. So it was in the oil fields, working for my dad and building oil pads for the oil companies to come and drill for oil.
Hard work. Nice. Thank you, Rudy. And Brad.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Ben. I'm Brad Littlefield, senior tech recruiter with Amazon's admin and general function. We build software for internal client finance, sales and use tax, applicant tracking, HRIS technology. About 25 years in high-tech HR. I started in HR management with Intercontinental Hotels in Atlanta and transitioned into high-tech, working for what was at the time NetSuite as employee 49. It's now it was NetLedger, now it's NetSuite. So been an interesting ride for me, and have been full-time tech recruiting since about 2004. First job for me, I pestered a local realtor named Diane Coltrane to let me pass out flyers and put up signs for her for open houses when I was in junior high. So been in the workplace a long time.
I always like hearing some of these first jobs that were not the typical, McDonald's or pushing shopping carts. It's always kind of interesting for me to see what some young folks did that's unexpected when they're in high school. So that's a good one. Michael.
All right. Hi, Ben. Hello, everyone. Mike Robinson. I am the administrator for the local WorkSource office here in Kitsap, and I also see the site in Port Angeles. So what is a WorkSource? It's what we refer to as, and if I could move in my sign, you could see an American Job Center. It's or a career one-stop. It's a place where people can go to get help with their resumes. We connect businesses and job seekers, which many of you will eventually be. We offer training services. We pretty much work on anything from soft skills to get you into some type of technical or training program, and get you onwards to a path of employment. So that's what I do. My first job, one of many, was McDonald's. I happily flipped the hamburgers, and I also worked in the park, and I worked in many restaurants because before Gordon Ramsay was the great big chef, that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized I didn't, and here I am.
WorkSource, one of the best resources I know of for connecting young folks to jobs, and I can personally attest to Mike's cooking. I think I gained 10 pounds when I was working there, or at least when we ever had an event where he brought food in. Thanks, Mike. Elise, hello.
Hi, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. My name's Elise Mclaughlin. I am the Peninsula Area Recruiter for CHI Franciscan. Have been with the company for about 8 years now. And I recruit specifically for St. Michael's in Silverdale and St. Anthony's in Gig Harbor. Mostly of the non-nursing variety. So anything from any of the technical positions in, say, respiratory or imaging or pharmacy or lab, down through housekeeping and dietary aids. And unlike so many of our neighbors here in the county who have been shut down during this pandemic, we have been open. So there are dietary and housekeeping jobs, as well as more hospital-centered, what people think of as hospital-centered jobs. There are here, and we are hiring, and so looking to fill those positions as always. My first job, I worked for a high-end retail establishment in Southern California, and it was a Christmas job that turned into a full-time job. And so I was on the sales floor.
Wow. And at least one thing I like, and you hit on it, is that there's so many more jobs in medical than I think probably 90% of the people I talk to realize. I think doctors and nurses didn't realize there's a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Glad you touched on it. Thank you. Melissa.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Melissa Anderson, one of the owners of Art Anderson Associates. We're a multidisciplinary engineering firm here in Bremerton. We offer mechanical, electrical, civil engineering, and naval architecture and marine engineering. My first job was for a title insurance company. I was the copy girl. So I made a lot of copies. This was, before paperless, and you had to actually put things in the mail or give it to a courier for delivery. That was my first job.
Mine hasn't paperless really reduced all the paper we go through.
What is paper anymore?
Thank you so much, Melissa. Hello, Monica.
Hello, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you for joining us.
Great. I'm Monica Blackwood with West Sound Workforce, and we are a professional staffing agency. We actually represent roughly 50 different employers in a variety of job industries and positions and so forth, anything from light industrial and manufacturing to office and managerial positions, hospitality, some medical office, healthcare related positions as well. So we have a wide variety of companies that we represent and partner with, and positions that we seek to fill and find job seekers for. I've been with the organization now for almost 3 years, which is pretty exciting. And aside from being the neighborhood babysitter, my first jobs, there were 2 of them in the same summer. I spent a couple of weeks in Eastern Oregon picking peas by my aunt and uncle's house, and also was a barista, kind of similar to Melissa, but it was a traveling and portable espresso stand that did special events. So I was hired help.
West Sound Workforce, another great resource that I like to refer students to when they're getting ready to graduate. So I'm very happy that you're here. So the way I'd like to do this, we've got some questions that we're going to ask. And if it's okay with everybody here, I'd kind of like to keep it loose. I may just kind of go around the panel and ask everybody to go ahead and answer the question. Feel free to keep it as lengthy or as brief as you like. Remember, we have 1 hour. If it's a question that maybe you need a little bit more time to think of, completely okay. We can move on and come back to you if you like. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of go back around in order again, and then I'll start switching it up after that, if that's all right with everybody. And Rudy, since you came back just in time, and once again, you're the gentleman on the upper left of my screen, this is the first question I'd like to ask folks. So by the way, some of these questions are going to be about your industry, but some of them I'm going to actually ask you to use yourself as an example, because I think that could be beneficial as well. So in this case, kind of more about you. I'd like to know what it is about you that you think helped to get you into the position that you're at today? What skills or attributes really worked for you to put you where you're at?
Wow. That's a great question. Just because, both of my parents were, my dad had his own business. My mom was a social worker. And they were well known in the community. So just being outgoing, able to talk to people, in the position that I'm at now, I tried for 14 years to try to get this position. I never gave up because my heart was set on being a recruiter after my time in the military, where I didn't get to choose to be a recruiter. They made me a recruiter, and I fell in love with recruiting. And so after spending 14 years trying to get this kind of position, and I finally got it. It was just not giving up, and being that people person, that networking, being easy to talk to. I think that's always been one of the strongest points is being open, honest, and having that communication with anybody that surrounds you.
I think no matter what role you're in, no matter what job, blue collar or white collar, I personally feel that the ability to work well and communicate with those around you is key, and oftentimes is the difference on who gets promoted. So that's excellent. Thank you. Hello, Brad.
Hey.
What do you think it is that you've got going for you that helped you land in the position you're in today?
I think, to sort of echo what Rudy said, early on in my career, I had a lot of customer-facing roles that required a lot of interaction with various people. In college, working in sales roles, worked selling fine art and customer service for a classic car restoration parts supply company where I had to do order entry and deal with people over the phone. So I always had that in my wheelhouse. And as life progressed, I ended up getting a paralegal degree and sort of segueing into running a law firm, and then human resources management. And as I progressed in my career in the HR sphere, of course, back in the day it was personnel and I was hiring folks, but I always got, God, you're the most outgoing HR manager we've ever had. You'd be great at recruiting. So I was sort of dragged into it and ended up sharing an office in early 2000 with a director of recruiting. I was the director of HR for a high-tech startup, and we became really good friends. And then the dot-com crash hit, and I was hustling around doing benefits package renegotiations for companies and updating HR manuals and pretty much doing anything I could to pay the mortgage. And there weren't a lot of HR positions out there because obviously HR is a cost center. So I transitioned to tech recruiting and never looked back. I think for me, it comes with the joy of really helping people in their path in life, knowing that I made a difference to somebody. And I have candidates that I've worked with that I've known for 20, 30 years that I'm still in touch with. I saw on LinkedIn today a young man, I gave him his first job out of college. He's now vice president of sales for a software company.
Nice.
Another young lady, I got in a lot of trouble hiring her in the hotel business because they didn't feel she was what we call front of the house presentable. Single mom, her husband had passed away in a drive-by. She had 3 kids she was supporting. She ended up as director of sales for Sheraton Hotels for West Coast. She and I are still very close. So really knowing that I was able in some small way to make a difference in somebody's life is really what gets me going every day. Working in high tech, with a lot of software engineers from around the world, knowing how competitive it is to get into an IIT in Southern Asia, for example. You have 4,000 applicants for one position in a school. And having a lot of respect for anybody who, goes halfway across the world to make a new life for themselves and to work hard and know that you're playing a part in helping them secure a position or get that first job in the US. And that's an amazing feeling and a huge honor, something that I really treasure, and I'm grateful that I've been given a position of responsibility so that I can try to affect that change for people.
I have to admit, as soon as you said classic cars, my ears started. Could ruin the whole presentation, talk about cars. Mike knows that for the rest of the hour. So your story also had a lot of persistence.
In the driveway right now. So.
Your story definitely showed me a lot of persistence. That's great. Mike.
All right. Well, you know, I started my career in the Navy. I loved the service industry, providing culinary services to the Navy, and you know, I loved the service industry. I was that junkie that fed off of taking care of people, and but then I realized that there's a lot more out there to the world. So that 20 years gave me some really good insight on what I did not want to do anymore, and created a different direction. And that's okay, because guess what? You're all going to go on multiple directions. I don't think anybody in this forum has stayed within their initial career. So you kind of adapt as you go. But that was really the catalyst of making me get to where I am. When I first started with Employment Security Department, I worked in the vet program, and helping veterans get work was, as a retired veteran, I mean, that was really, I thought very noble, and I fed off of it. It made me feel good, and to see people become self-sufficient. And in fact, there are people that I still communicate with to this day through LinkedIn that they're just doing awesome. So it validates for me. That's something that I like. That's something I need. But that's, again, I'll go back to, I had to learn about me and myself, what I liked and what my skills were. And so I think that's something I hope you take away, is knowing what it is that you like. Now, fast forward, here I am in the same organization as the administrator, which is a leadership role, something else that I really liked and I excelled at while I was in the military. So now I get to take that and provide the service to our community. There's nothing more noble for me. That is, I wake up every day with my smile. Who can we help? How are we going to help them? And that's what drives me. So and the irony is, I'm a pretty introverted person. So by the end of the day, I'm tapped out, and again, I know myself. So it's like I put all my energy into work, and then at the end of the day, decompress. So that's really those are some of my attributes.
Very much for sharing that. Thank you. Hello, Elise.
Hello. I just want to echo a lot of what Mike said. My career path was not a direct career path. If you know what you want to be and what you want to spend your life doing, kudos to you. I know a lot of people that know from the time they're small children that what they want to do with their lives, and they go and they do it and they're successful, and more power to you. But that was not me. I still tell people I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So it was a rather circuitous route, and I just kind of fell into things as they went along, as my career progressed. And in fact, before I moved to Washington, was HR generalist manager for a semiconductor manufacturer in Southern California. So moved up here and took this job with the hospital because I wanted to work for the hospital, and I wanted to be part of my community, the community I had chosen to live in. I, like Mike, I'm a little, if you had asked my mother what I was like as a child, she would have told you I was painfully shy. So the fact that I actually recruit people now and talk to people and engage people would have been a surprise to her. But you can learn to do those things. You can work on those things and push yourself into that. I think one of the things that makes me successful in my job is that I don't like the roadblocks, and I'm going to continually push to see how I can keep this moving forward. How can we get the process moving forward? What's holding us up? How do we get past that? So how can I fill my metrics to get these positions filled with the right people? Where do I have to go? Where do I have to find people? How do I get them through the process quickly so that we can serve our community and serve our patients? So that's a little bit of where I'm going.
That's two people now that have said something that I think is interesting that I've talked to students about. The two of you said you're kind of introverted. I'm introverted. I can get up and talk to 500 people, 2,000 people, 8 people. It doesn't matter. And I had a coworker one time said, gosh, I bet you are just the life of the party and you like to socialize. No, at the end of the day, I go home, shut the gates, go in the garage and work on one of my cars. And I think there's a lesson there oftentimes for students who feel that they feel that something about their personality means this is a type of job or work I can't do. And oftentimes they're surprised to learn, yes, you can. It's a skill that you can not only learn, but you may actually enjoy, even though you wouldn't normally think that's part of your personality. So that's kind of neat. I'm glad you shared that both.
I met a student once at a job fair who said, oh, but I just don't want to work with people. And they thought everything in the hospital was working with people.
Yes,
and
tough
it's
to
not.
do.
I mean, people in the lab, people in the pharmacy, they don't necessarily see people. So there are jobs out there for you.
Got it. Thank you, Elise. Hi, Melissa.
Hello. I like all these answers. I think they're all, we can each apply them in our own lives at some point. I myself have always been curious and motivated. So whatever job I had, I was always asking for more, or I was asking for, I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn about what different people did in the organization. And I always wanted the next promotion, right? I never shied away from it. I remember my mom telling me, if you ever want a raise, you have to go ask for it. You know, nobody's going to offer you that money. And so I think that even though it's uncomfortable, I was always ready. I always wanted to say, hey, how do I get that job? You know, how do I get that promotion? How do I get that pay raise? And, you know, just not shy away from it.
Melissa, are you one of those people that when a question pops into your head that you just have to go look it up and and find the answer?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got that feeling. Thank you so much. Hi, Monica.
Hi. Well, like all the other stories, my professional career evolved. Out of college, I went into professional sports, and then into IT, then into architecture and design, and finally into staffing. A lot of the positions have very similar threads, in that they were on the administrative side of things, but very different industries and kind of led me here. I think some of the things that really led to success that I had was, you know, following my word. It's the only thing really that I can control. So do what you say and commit to it, because people are relying on you. There's, you know, in the sports world, especially my husband, the motto is don't let your teammates down, right? If you filter everything through that, then you should be golden. Networking, I know Rudy mentioned this, a couple others. Networking is critical, but be in it to connect others, because the good will follow and come to you out of that. So don't be in it necessarily just for your own good, but be in it for the betterment of others. And lastly, I know a couple other people have talked about this, but the passion. Be passionate about what you're doing. Find some reason. Find some link to connect that passion. It might not be the entire job that you're passionate about, or the entire set of tasks that you have to do, but there's something there, and live that to its fullest and be connected that way. So
Thank you, Monica. I've always defined success for my own children as well as any of the students that I help. Success means you like what you're doing. It has nothing to do with how much you're earning. It has to do with you really, like you said, have a passion for what it is that you're doing. The person that enjoys what they're doing never has to work a day in their life. Thank you. So I want to kind of jump into the toughie, the one that occupies a lot of the conversations that I'm having for the past year. And I'm sure this comes as no surprise to you, but I have a lot of parents saying, my student isn't going to have a chance. There's no work. There's no jobs. Everyone's unemployed, you know, with everything that's going on. And it certainly is a very tough situation that we're in, but I'm constantly letting them know there's still a lot of work out there. And it's time to get educated on the new way to look for work and what that might look like. So for the next round of questions, I guess what I'm looking for is given everything that we've been going on in the past year, what changes specifically in your career field or in your industry, what changes may have taken place in the hiring process, and what advice would you give to a young person getting ready to start applying for work and interviewing? Any advice at all you can give to these young folks for again, what we're experiencing right now? Like, try to kind of home it in on your industry and your career field. This time, Brad, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
So, you know, a lot of people are likening what happened or what's happening now to the recession of 2008, and that simply isn't the case. We're seeing exponential growth in particular industries. Certainly software and tech positions have continued to have extremely high demand. There was some uncertainty in Q1 of 2020. A lot of companies did cut back. You know, here in Seattle, Redfin was a good example. They froze their recs. F5 cut their recs by about 50% in Q1 and Q2, and then expanded hiring. I think for me, the big change, I'm very much a social recruiter. I run a lot of events. So I encourage students that I work with at UW and some other colleges to really be lifestyle engineers, to get involved with meetup groups, various tech groups, the open source community, contributing to GitHub repositories, really being a lifestyle developer, getting away from the 9-to-5er mentality, recognizing that, you know, I don't really care what you're into, just be into something. I tend to look a lot for people who connect with me at various events that I host, like Women in Cloud, Women Who Code, American Society of Black Engineers at UW, the Node.js group, the QA group, a lot of other various Python groups and things like that. But that's changed a lot for us. We aren't able to do the traditional campus career fairs or hold a tech talk at the office and invite people to come and network and enjoy hospitality. So I've really had to learn to pivot to go to online events. I'm attending a lot of various events through Meetup, like Women in DevOps is a great organization. A lot of the organizations I work with and other in-house tech recruiters have had to pivot to virtual career fairs and events like that. So it's been a learning experience for us, certainly. I think for students, I would say, remember that the people on the other side of the desk, the recruiters, are just people too, like everybody else. And we've all had to learn and adapt this year to do our jobs and to deal with stresses and challenges that none of us have ever faced in our entire lives. We haven't seen anything like this since the pandemic of 1918. And so I think being compassionate, being understanding, being respectful that we're all human and that none of us are perfect. Those are important attributes to have. Also, the interview process is looking a little bit different. A year or two ago, if you came in to interview for a role with me at a company, I would make sure that I had your interview set up, and, you know, let's say you start at 10 a.m. and you're going to meet so-and-so for an hour and someone for an hour, and we'll break for lunch and I'll take you to lunch, and then 2 more people. You know, very structured, very fast, because we tend to make hiring decisions extremely quickly in high tech. A good engineer is never unemployed very long. So now, because folks are working from home, people's schedules are a little different. The interview process looks a little bit different. It's not uncommon for me to have somebody maybe do 1 or 2 interviews on a Tuesday, and then the following morning an early interview because one of the engineers is in Europe or Australia and the time is different. So that one-day interview might end up being spread out over 2 or 3 days. So I think recognizing that things are a little bit different, but to not give up, tap the hidden job market. You know, sitting home, sending resumes through Indeed or LinkedIn is certainly one leg to stand on in your strategy, but tapping the hidden job market, if you see a position that's open at a particular company that interests you, reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, maybe someone who's a second degree connection or a fellow engineer or in the particular area that you're working in, and say hi and just say, be genuine, make yourself vulnerable. Say, hey, I'm looking, I'm really interested in xyz.com. I'd love to see if maybe you could hand my resume to the HR manager. A lot of companies have very generous hiring bonuses, entry-level positions, 2,500 to 5,000 or more for experienced people. So, you know, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and you're a genuinely nice person and you show that you're interested in my company, even though it's not my department, you know, I'll hand walk that over to somebody that I know who works in HR or recruiting, or maybe the payroll department, but at least they sit in HR. And now, instead of just being a resume going into a big black hole, we tell people that the ATS is where data goes to die. You know, somebody's forwarded your resume to a decision maker, and that person is looking at an email with your resume attached. And that's a great way to propel yourself to the front of the line in consideration. So I think those are some good little hacks that people can employ. Ben, you're muted.
Yeah, my 5-year-old's found my office here. Sorry about that. Thank you, Brett. Mike, I'm going to say the same thing to you and Monica, in that I'll kind of give you an option. If you want to talk what's changed with the pandemic and hiring in your particular field, but it's kind of different for you two because you kind of serve as a conduit or a pipeline connecting folks to employment. So you might be seeing a trend or something very common in that maybe you, instead of just your industry, that you might want to share with us. So Mike, I'm going to go ahead and let you go first. You're on. There you are.
You're on mute. Well, that's one of the things right there. That is something that's new. We've been at this now for a year, and I came from an industry that was face-to-face. We welcome people in our doors. We ask them how we can help them. What can we do for you today? And then we went about our business and helped people. I mean, that's a great job, right? Helping people. Unfortunately, the pandemic changed all that. A key word Brad brought up, pivot. We had to pivot. We had to change our business model. And that, you know, something that is so heavily dependent on a face-to-face interaction created opportunity, but also created a lot of barriers, because there are a lot of people out there who want to talk to us, but they don't have the means. And so that's an unfortunate part of what we're working on. But we've moved now to a working from home full time. It is 8 to 5, but we're actually looking at how we can flex our hours so that we can be more available for people, because now we're all at home. We're in our safe spaces where, you know, we should be able to be isolated from the dangers that are out there potentially. And, you know, looking at the time of day, I mean, there's no reason that we can't flex now, because before we had, like I said, it was a place you went to 8 to 5, and that model is kind of in nowhere land right now. Everything is virtual. We operate through Zoom, WebExes, Skypes. Using the technology to communicate and to help people has really changed the way that we do our work. We look for, when we do interview, we are looking for those skill sets, people that that are very comfortable with change, very comfortable with using these platforms, and it's nothing that's going to go away. We're going to see easily the next 2 years solid. We will have some type of telework. recommendations as far as resumes and interviewing, well, number one, look up worksourcewa.com and go to the services on that page. We can get you connected with a ton of different career tools, such as helping you with your first resume, maybe helping you with an internship, helping you with interviewing skills. Our interviews happen just like this, face to face or monitor to monitor, and so it's an art having a conversation with somebody when you have the pressure on and you're looking for work. I would say Brad really opened the door to what we refer to as informational interviewing. If you find a job that you're interested in, and you can find a way to just talk to that employer and kind of pique their interest, let them know what you're really into. Don't just make it all about the job, because that really, I think, turns a lot of people off. We get that when we're hiring, I think everybody on here hires. When we're hiring people, we know it's about the job at the end, but we want to know that you're a good fit. So cracking that code and having meaningful conversations with people, that's really something that can help you. And practice interviewing, practice in front of the mirror. Seriously, practice in front of a webcam and record it. Look at your posture. Are you slumped down in a chair? I mean, these are things, having a good presence and being engaged. And it's wonky right now, right? We always say have good eye contact. Well, which eye contact am I gonna? Oh, you're right there. Have that kind of eye contact, and work on those little details. And I think that's going to help you go a long ways. But I will say there are many employers out there that are interviewing in person. I think Elise talked about all the work they have. There are plenty of places out there where you can interview in person. You're just going to have your mask on and do it safely. So I think that's probably my best.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you very much. Elise, so kind of the same thing. Given the new normal is the term I hear, and Mike kind of touched on how you're doing. You're still doing some in person. That's interesting. But if you're talking to a young person or a group and they're saying, "My gosh, how do I look for work?" or "How am I going to interview?" or "What do I do with the new America, with everything that's going on right now?" What advice do you give them?
Well, and Mike's right. Not a lot has changed with the hospital industry. I mean, even if you get the job, you're still going to have to come to work. You can't work remotely for the vast majority of our jobs. So yeah, we do interview in person. You're going to have to pass the symptom and temperature test screen when you come through the door. You're going to have to wear a mask, and you'll get a face-to-face interview. My best advice to them, we're still doing it. We've got a very robust website. Put your application in. Those we still have really tight deadlines for turning those around, getting them in hiring managers' hands to make decisions. Because, as I alluded to earlier, we didn't shut down. We kept working this whole last year, and of course, in the middle of all this, St. Michael's decided to move to a new hospital as well. So our rec load absolutely exploded. I must have twice the recs that I had this time last year. And so there are jobs out there. And for those parents that are worried about their kids, where do they get their first job? I mean, you can take a per diem position in nutrition services or environmental services, which is housekeeping, and continue at your schooling. I mean, we're 24/7. It's, take a per diem, you can go to school, you can work that per diem night shift, and maybe find something else within the hospital that really interests you. And then you have an in with that hiring manager or somebody who works in that department who can talk you up and say, hey, this person has shown some real ambition. They're going to school for this. We need to keep an eye on them. It's a great foot in the door for our people that want to do that. So if you show up to the interview, show up neat, show up clean. We almost didn't transfer an internal person, no less, because she showed up to the interview in jeans that were frayed at the bottom, just kind of that sense of entitlement that I work here, I should get this job. We almost didn't transfer her into the other position just because of those kinds of things. So your appearance, your attitude, Mike said, sit up straight if it's a Zoom interview, show some interest, be engaged, practice. You can never have enough practice interviewing. I don't care how old you are. You can never have enough practice interviewing. And be engaged. Be engaged. That person interviewing you is just another person as well. So they're interested in you to try to see if you're a good fit for their organization. So engage them.
Thank you. Melissa, you're next.
Sure. Well, we have remained open as well, but only a handful of people actually work in the office. So we've been able to have in-person interviews. However, what we have seen more of is people reaching out to have a more casual conversation. So we've seen a lot of people who are graduating in the next year or so, just reaching out and saying, hey, could I come meet you? Could we have a Zoom call? Can we just talk about what your firm looks like and what this job looks like? And I enjoy seeing that because to me that says that people are being a little bit more creative about finding a job, and they're maybe thinking more about what job do I actually want, right? And going and seeking it and being a little bit just more pointed in what they are doing and what they're looking for. So, yes, our unemployment rate is up. However, I think that if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to be a little bit more creative about going about it, I think that you'll find something.
There are still jobs out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you just said is probably one of the most important things. A lot of people aren't looking because I think there's no work. There's a lot of work out there. Go look for it. Thank you so much, Melissa. Monica, same thing I told Mike. I'm going to leave it up to you if you want to talk specifically about what's changed getting a job at West Sound workforce, or as, again, kind of a connection or conduit, if you can say to anything that you're seeing as a whole, or some general advice that you're seeing as you're watching people transition into this new work search environment.
And I have a couple of things that kind of respond to both. A lot of the most successful organizations and companies throughout this last year in the pandemic are ones that were so quick to be agile, right? They were able to transform the way they were doing business, the things that they needed, and all of that, and look at what the end goal was and figure out the most safe, the most efficient, the whatever solution that got them to that end result, and kind of asking the question, how can things be done differently, right? So you take that and then you go to an interview, and the things that we are looking for and the things that employers are looking for are those soft skill sets now that demonstrate that you can adapt like that, and you can be agile, and you can take scenario A from whatever work experience or life experience you had and translate that into scenario B to get to the result, because you've got learned experience, whether it be professional or volunteer or just life experience. So how does that inform the way that you're going to do the job and get to the end result of whatever that position is, right? So those are the kinds of things that that are being sought after now. not quite so much about, you know, oh, do you have the degree? Do you have the 5+ years of experience? All of that, because companies are realizing, and this last year has really put a microscope on it, about those adaptable skills that that not everybody has, right? But then you get kind of more to the technical things of, you know, what's on your resume, interviews and all of that. And the things that I like are, you know, don't be too wordy, don't include a picture, those types of things. But think about what you want your resume to portray about you and your talents, and make it respond to the position that you're applying for, or at least the company that you're applying for, because maybe there are multiple positions or whatnot. In the interviews, ask questions. Show that you've done some research on the company or on the industry, on what motivates you to be applying for that job, and ask those questions. And I guess one other thing that I have is, because things are legal in Washington, right? Don't lie about drug tests. Don't lie about things like that, and be upfront, because at least for us, we have employers that are friendly, and we have employers that aren't friendly, depending on you know, on what they have for their funding or the work product that they have and whatnot. And so if we know up front, and we say, hey, this position requires a drug screen, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to take that today, that's cool. We get the message, and we will find another position for you, or we'll have a conversation about, okay, is it just today, or is that going to be ever that you're not going to be able to feel comfortable about taking that drug screen? So just be upfront about it, because it won't waste your time and our time.
One thing you did mention, by the way, that I liked, and it kind of speaks to all of you, when you all at the very beginning kind of did that quick little icebreaker on your first job, so many of you touched on something that I like quite a bit: transferable skills. I were listening to your stories. I heard a lot of it because I started out here, you know, the McDonald's job or the handing out flyers. You gain skills that you know, use to move up, and you're probably still using today. So that was kind of neat. Rudy, what's changed? What has not changed?
Well, on the federal side, you know, the application process is still normal through USA Jobs. One of the cool things that the Department of the Navy is still under is we still have direct hire opportunity for all U.S. citizens. So that means if you happen to know a hiring manager or one of our recruiters, you can actually send your resumes directly to them, and they can get it directly to the hiring managers without you having to apply through online. But we're still normal process. We still put out a lot of jobs. The pandemic has created new opportunities in the workforce on the federal side of the house too, not just in the medical field, but in the workforce status for fighting the pandemic, which has been a major plus. Interviewing has definitely gone on its wayside, so we are no longer going to be posting our annual like 500 positions. Because we're not going to be doing mass interviews anymore because of the pandemic. We're definitely allowing each individual code or shop, which is the welders or the pipe fitters, the ship fitters, do their individual recruitment. So that way we're going to tone it down a little bit and be able to do one-on-one interviews still face-to-face. Now, our hiring managers are just now catching up and getting webcams being allowed to use in our controlled industrial area of the shipyard. So some of them are turning to virtual recruitment interviews. And again, I would suggest if you're going to do a virtual interview, stage your background, sit where you see family photos, your awards, anything, like stage them. Show us that you're the best of the best. On our side of the house, we want to see those go-getters. We want to see those people who are willing to move up in the world. Hey, I'm not just here for the job, but if you're willing to pay for.
Rudy, at least on my end, you have frozen. Is anyone else still listening to Rudy? Okay.
He locked up there.
Okay. Rudy, I'm sorry. Your picture is totally. Oh, there you are. You came back.
I don't know what it is. Only on Zoom do I get the internet connection is unstable.
You're back. So I'll let you go ahead and give you a minute to wrap up, and we'll get to our last question while we still have time.
And like I was saying, nothing has totally changed on the recruitment side of the house. It's still the online process, and we're going to try to interview people via Zoom or via camera with our managers.
Thank you. So we only have a few more minutes. I want to try to really quickly get one last question in, but I would humbly ask that you give us a really quick answer. And I know that's kind of tough sometimes, but just a really quick flyby, fast answer. And this is the last thing. We've talked a lot within the context of your answers about interviews. Monica touched really quickly on resumes. So let me close with this. Very quickly, you are glancing at a resume. What is it about a resume that can instantly grab your attention? You're going through it and you see something and boom, now I'm really interested and I want to slow down and I really want to read this resume. Fastest answer you can. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Unmute.
I'm looking for outcomes. It's great you have a skill. It's great you say you did something, but I'd like to know what you did, how you accomplished it. And sometimes that takes a little work, phrasing your sentences if you don't have a lot of experience. But I can tell you right now, as a high school student now, maybe you're going into college, you have transferable skills. So I would say, what are your outcomes?
Thank you, sir. Elise.
Resumes that are specific to the job. I want to be able to know that you have looked at our job description, that you have qualified yourself for the job. So many of our jobs require licensure or certification. Put that on your resume, please. Don't make me go searching. And again, be specific. I mean, I looked at one resume the other day that said they wanted a job with Tacoma General. Well, I'm not Tacoma General, sorry.
No one
so
size
you don't
fits
want
all
to come to work
resumes.
for St. Michael's. So it takes more time, but customize your resume and make sure it's specific to the job that you're applying for.
Definitely. I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much. Melissa.
I totally agree with that. You can tell when a resume has been blasted to every, company in your industry versus tailored for your specific firm. It's also indicative on the cover letter. So really spend time on that cover letter. That will get me to pay more attention to the resume.
Thank you so much. Monica, what is it about a resume you think that's going to really make somebody stop and say, this is interesting, I want to slow down and actually read it instead of just skim it?
I would say all of the above, plus don't use text lingo, capitalize your I's, don't abbreviate words, use full sentences. But if we have to figure out what it is that you're trying to say because you're not using all the letters in a word and you're using numbers and symbols instead, I'm not going to put that much effort in.
Rudy.
Yeah, so ours are different. If I was still recruiting on the civilian side of the house, definitely bullets, keep it short and simple, get to the point. Tell me, like Mike said, give me some good accomplishments. Tell me that you're that go-getter. On the federal side of the house, tell me a story. I need you to explain in detail what your admin skills were, what your data entry skills were. I need definitely a good story on how, why, and what were the results of you doing that portion of the job.
Rudy, you educated me once upon a time that if you are on USA Jobs applying for a federal job, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said it's better if they actually use the USA Jobs resume builder rather than attach their own resume. Am I recalling that correctly?
That is correct, because the resume builder on USA Jobs forces you to give us and plug in the information in the correct spot, so we can give you credit for your work experience, training, and education, because we allow you to apply for some of our jobs based on education alone.
And they shouldn't worry that as a printed document, it looks really odd. Doesn't matter. For the feds, that's what they like and that's what they want. I think he froze again. Oh, there he is. Okay. Thanks, Rudy. Brad, we've got a few more minutes here, but again, you're looking at a resume. What's going to jump out at you and you think, you know, I really want to take a look at this?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Monica said and add to that. Please don't get creative. Don't give me crazy fonts. Just stick with the classic format. We read resumes really fast. I can read a resume in 15 to 20 seconds. So, you know, you're only going to get a little window to get seen. And it's really important to stick with the format that works. Rudy's got the government jobs format. They really, you know, are reviewing these mountains of data. These things are getting parsed into ATS systems. Don't use funny fonts and colors and things like that. That's a big one. Metrics, I'm really big on metrics. I want to see that, you know, you wrote a program that reduced error or fault instances by 35%, or you were able to increase the number of terabytes that you were processing with a program that you wrote. Whatever it is, you know, definable specific metrics, hugely important. Also, I really love and I'm a big proponent of people who state their most significant accomplishments. Talk about the things you're proud of, right? But use action words. Don't be trite. Make sure that you're not using redundant phrases that are outdated. I don't want to see, you know, certain terms that have been buzzing around since the 1980s. It doesn't make you look fresh. It doesn't make you look current. That's really important. And a big one for me personally, I really love people who demonstrate on their resume a willingness to give back. I really resonate so much with me. If I see you volunteered with the Kitsap Humane Society doing adoptions with animals, or you know, you were involved in a student group or student union, you were treasurer of your group, or you did outreach as a candy striper at a hospital, you know, reading to kids, working at a night school, right? People who give back and demonstrate that they're well-rounded individuals. Yeah, I want you to be passionate about what you're doing in your education, but I want to see a really well-rounded person. And maybe some other recruiters don't care so much about that. That really matters to me. I still look for that. And it's really important, whatever it is, you know, if you're involved with a group at your church, or like I said, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing. The fact that you're doing it gives you huge cred with me.
Thank you, Brad. And we are seeing 2 years in a row now, every survey I've looked at says that while volunteerism has always been a positive, it's at an all-time high right now. I don't know if the other recruiters or other employers in here would agree with that, but that certainly is what we're seeing nationwide, is volunteerism has really become a much bigger thing than it ever has before. So we are at the end. Couple things I'd like to thank. First of all, Ted and Frank behind me have been very quiet and still the whole time I've been conducting this. I appreciate that. They've kept the assembly line nice and quiet. Thank you. All of you have taken time out of your day to come on to this forum, and you've done that because you have a passion for really making sure that students get all the information they could possibly need to help them transition into the labor market. So very heartfelt thank you for taking the time to do that. For anybody watching this video, if you had more questions that didn't get answered, you'd like more information, there's going to be a link attached at the bottom of the video. You can click on that link to get some more answers, ask some questions that maybe we didn't get to today. So with that, again, I want to thank everybody watching this video, and I certainly want to thank Olympic College for setting this up. And one last time, those of you representing your industries here that have joined us in the video, thank you so much for taking the time.